My old buddy Eric Hunley is here. It's been a while, Eric, and my other old buddy, my husband. It's also been a while. He's been gone for quite a while. These two little rugrats decided to go check out the place where the Trump assassination attempt went down. And this is some drone video I'm going to play while Eric tells us, why did you guys want to travel to Butler, Pennsylvania to see this in person?
Okay, the reason why I wanted to go to the Butler Farm Show was to see the actual site that this assassination attempt occurred. There's a ton of conspiracy theories, things like that, and you can't really get perspective of what the heck is going on unless you're on the ground looking at the buildings. It changes your perspective completely. And this is
Hmm.
something I found with Dealey Plaza. So I did not realize it until visiting Dealey Plaza. And I highly recommend everybody, if they have an opportunity, visit that place because you think it looks vast and wide, etc. It's actually incredibly narrow. We measured the shot from the grassy knoll, which Mark and I believe happened, and that was 35 yards. So you're sitting here thinking, "Oh my God, sniper with the rifle." It's like, no, it's a 35-yard chip shot that anybody could have taken from that spot. So I think that being on site, you can actually look at the angles and just stand there and go, huh, is this possible? Also, there was an environmental concern of my friend took us there and he pointed out it is not only a quagmire in terms of the buildings and the layout and everything that's going on there with where Trump was, but leading into it, there's construction everywhere and it's completely bottlenecked inside. And honestly, that guy might have, Crooks may have gotten away. It was possible he could have gotten away with all the disasters that happened if he had enough of a distraction. I could even tell from the other footage that Trump and them could barely get out. When we drove in, it was really, really narrow, tight. It was just a cluster, or Charlie Foxtrot, as Lynn might want to say.
Lynn, why did you want to see it in person?
Uh, I would say much for a lot of the reasons why Eric wanted to go. For me, it's kind of a personal thing. I think the biggest thing that even compelled me to even speak my mind about any of this, because you know me well enough to know that, like, I'm very careful about certain things and opining on certain things, and especially with some of the stuff that we've been talking about, and especially Eric and I. I last thing I want to do is give somebody a play-by-play on how they can do this better. So there's a bunch of different reasons that it's all wrapped up for that I'm careful about these things. But at the same token, just listening to some of the foolishness that's being said, quite frankly, and then the vitriol towards those law enforcement professionals that were acting in the counter sniper capacity, uh, by people who have no idea what it's like to do that job, or what they're dealing with there. And it seemed like the planets aligned. I happen to be in Ohio anyways, training Upper Arlington Police Department. So Eric and I kind of chatted back and forth about it, and I said I would be happy to come and take a look at it. And the as you'll probably hear me either reiterate on some of the video, or as we get a little bit deeper into some of this stuff, and when I go through some of the questions that everybody posted on your page, um, it's just like when you go on a trip somewhere. Like, Allie, you remember when we went to the Grand Canyon? And I mean, you're a phenomenal videographer and photographer, but it's just the photos and the video never does it justice when you're really there on the ground. And so when Eric and I had those conversations, and I'll let him speak for himself, once he started looking at it through my eyes, applying that tactical cunning piece, uh, and really, like, how difficult the job is for executive protection, how difficult the job is for an advanced site survey, and then dealing with, what the worst case scenario could be. Um, we have a false sense of security. And one of the points that I made is that what this kid was able to do is no different than, you know, Joe Schmo, the insurgent that I dealt with and fought against for, you know, almost 15 years. And it's no different than the street level bad guys and up that U.S. law enforcement and law enforcement deal with across the world. And I personally really think that there's more being made out of this than what is reality, and it's just because A, people watch too much TV, and B, they just their own denial, their own psychological impact of it is like, there's no way that this could have happened. It had to have been something more. It had to have been multiple shooters. It had to have been dude from a hot air balloon. Like, come on, man. Like, it
The
sometimes it
water
is just
tower,
what
my
it
brother.
is. Yeah.
The
No,
water
that's
tower.
yeah.
Well, to that point, don't forget you can put funny memes in on my editorial board if you are on it for $5 a month at alisonmorrow.locals.com. Eric's also on Locals too. Is it still Eric Hunley or America's Best Told Stories at Locals, Eric?
It's unstructured.locals.com.
Unstructured. Okay.
Yeah.
So Eric goes by many names.
Unstructured.locals.com.
Eric goes by many names. Yeah,
Thank
because
you,
I want to make
Barbs.
sure before we go any further too that the reason you guys were there too is because Eric's putting together a whole video about this that you are going to be able to go check out. But before he tells us where you're going to get that, yeah, I saw this is in the list of the funny things people posted for you guys and questions. New video shows Trump shooter on roof holding huge sign saying, "I'm going to shoot Trump," which I'm guessing is a meme. Am I right? Is this from like the
Yes.
Babylon Bee or something? Okay. But that's how a lot of
Yes.
people do feel about it, watching from like armchair quarterback positions. And so, to your point, I think, yeah, there are a lot of us. I mean, me included, you know, I have a hard time believing a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing in the news. And who can blame people because the news misleads us all the time. And so does the government, frankly. And we know that they get involved in all kinds of crazy schemes to do all kinds of crazy things. It really is not that unbelievable that there could be something more to all of it. So I don't judge people for wondering about this stuff. I think it's good that they ask questions, but that's why we want to have folks like you on to talk about it. Eric is giving me the black wheel of death. So while we're waiting for him, do not forget, you can support the show if you're a lonely person who's trying to figure out what really happened with this assassination attempt and you have no one to text about it because you have no friends, because I don't know, you canceled everybody over the last few years over COVID. Text Birch Gold and use Alison 989898. Okay, so you just have to put Alison with one L in the text line 989898. They will help you make a decision about whether switching your IRA and 401k into precious metals is the right decision for you. A lot of people are looking at the economy wondering what's ahead. We just spent hundreds of dollars at the grocery store today for really not a whole lot of food. And it really makes you wonder where things are going and whether your US dollar is going to be worth anything in the next few years. So people are wondering, hey, you want to diversify into food? We're getting into farming. You want to diversify into precious metals? It's a great way to find out if it's right for you and also support the show. Text Alison 989898. Birch Gold's been in business over 20 years, and they have helped countless people. They have an A+ rating with Better Business Bureau. If you text them that, they will then send you back your no obligation free info kit on gold. Text Alison to 989898. Again, Alison with one L. So, Lynn, we've lost Eric. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Why don't I just throw you one of the questions real fast then about this so that
Yeah,
we can get that going?
I have them up too, so I can.
Okay, good.
You
I'm
know,
going to go all the way.
can.
There's a lot of questions here, and I only have you guys for a little bit, so I'm not going to get into all the comments. But they are interesting. I suggest people go read through the comments if you can, just because some of them are interesting. How do we, Tappy Chef asks, for that matter, how does President Trump ever trust the Secret Service again, or this weaponized DOJ and FBI? What about the gun dealer who was murdered by the ATF in his own home? Do we want to get into that today, or should we just stick to the site analysis?
I'll just touch on this. Like, yes, it's. I mean, a level. That's why things like this, especially like a quote unquote sniper or a precision shot or a single shot or few shot like shooter or attack, is so psychologically impactful to the victims and people conducting operations, is because now if you get this overwhelming feeling is that, okay, I'm walking out my door and I'm going to get popped a new set of running lights, It has the same psychological effect that like the Juba sniper had for us in Iraq. And it ended up being a whole sniper brigade. It wasn't just one sniper, but again, that's one of those things where now all of a sudden it turns into the boogeyman, and so we're always going to gravitate to like the most fantastical, worst possible case from 1,200, 1,200 meters away with an SVD dragging off, and it's like, hey man, first of all, that's not even a minute of angle weapon system. It's not capable of that kind of accuracy at that kind of range, and it's not even capable of that kind of positive ID. The fact of the matter is they were taking shots from 100 and 200 yards out, and they were using things like urban masking and social camouflage to conceal themselves. And that's exactly why somebody like that is able to defeat, in some cases, highly trained, highly equipped, highly capable professionals. And it shocks. Yeah, it shocks the conscience, and people were like, well, how does this even happen? So, I would say that, yeah, I'm certain there's going to be a level of a lack of confidence there, but I would caution people about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like when we dealt with that in Iraq, it was okay. Look at the behavior. What's the behavior? How do we identify it? How do we problem solve it and deal with the threat? The same thing with the DC snipers. There's actual studies that were done on the overarching second and third order effects that occurred within the DC metro and Virginia, Maryland, Baltimore area because of what a guy and a teenager were able to accomplish. They weren't highly trained. They weren't, nothing to write home to mom about, but they were highly effective. So that's my answer to that question.
Okay, Eric gave me this clip of something Lynn said, and this is the scene of the rally. Well, this is where it was, Butler Farms, right, Eric? Okay, let's listen.
So how do bad guys hide in plain sight? They use things like urban masking and social camouflage. They make their behaviors appear to be legitimate, and to your brain, to your cognitive brain, if it appears legitimate, it becomes invisible. You paint it out. So urban masking, those are the things that I use. Like the actor wears a mask. Like right now, if I say I was walking down the street and I see a police officer and I do this number, I got my sunglasses on, I got my hat on. So yeah, it could be just sunglasses and hat. It's bright outside. But then if I'm like, hey officer, nice to see you. What's my behavior? I'm trying to appear to be like I'm the nice guy, but what am I actually doing right now? I'm worried about you positively identifying me, so I'm trying to conceal my identity.
Right behind him is the actual building that the shooter was on, just for perspective.
Okay, so then, with that in mind, what Lynn just said there about the camouflage and masking and whatnot, after being on this site, did you walk away saying, wow, I can't believe this kid was able to accomplish this if the narrative we're being told is in fact correct? Or did you think there was something off about it? I just, again, you got to watch Eric's video once he gets his produced for all the information about it. And Eric, where can people watch it when it's done?
Just Eric Hunley. Just look up my name, youtube.com/Eric Hunley. It'll be on that channel. But
so
I think it's actually easier to consider. I think it's possible. It's even more possible. I thought it was that a 20-year-old kid could do it, that a 30-year-old kid could do it, that a local, specifically a local or somebody who knew the area could pull this off. It seemed possible.
The audience that you're producing this film for, again, where people can go watch it, it's an Unstructured podcast, but it's on Eric Hunley's YouTube channel. So look up Eric Hunley on YouTube and you can watch the whole thing when it comes out. How has the reaction been when you say things like, I can see now how actually the mainstream narrative may not be so crazy after all? Like maybe it did actually happen this way, because I think a lot of people in today's world, because of where we've been over the last few years with COVID, for instance, are just very rightly, I think, so skeptical of the information that we're just doused with every day. And I find that it's difficult. Like if you're somebody like you, who really does want to try to understand a situation, not because you're trying to get clicks on your video, but because you really want to figure out the truth as best you can. But when you come to a conclusion that your audience is not expecting, what happens? Because, it seems like it's not a great time for just, hey, maybe it did just happen this way kind of thing. I mean, people, are angry about a lot of stuff, and we're going into a hot election. And I'm just curious, like, are you, how do you, how do you handle that as somebody who's trying to really understand what's going on? You just do the best you can and release it and say, hey, if my audience revolts in the comment section, who cares? I'm just curious the reaction you've seen from people, the attitude you have as you're going into this, because it's a tough topic to take on. It's kind of lose-lose in a lot of ways.
It is, but you know what? There's plenty that's already come out that can be investigated. The assignments from people, why were they there? Why was that roof, made available? What was going on? Were they actual Secret Service employees or were they fill-ins? I mean, there's a ton of actual meat on the bone that's been released and everybody agrees on it. The kids flying the drone around, but the local police get their drone turned down by the Secret Service. Just go watch a congressional testimony, and there's plenty to investigate right there before you start worrying about a water tower. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible that other things didn't happen, and it's not possible that the kid worked with somebody, but I just feel like there's plenty of material already available that you can really dig into and investigate, and it's horrible. I mean, at a minimum, it's beyond normality of gross incompetence. There's a lot there. And I don't think that you have to go to wild theories about somebody inside the window shooting them out and all these other things, because that actually helps the deep state. That actually helps blow a bunch of noise into it, and then people can be mocked. Mm-hmm. So I think that investigate what is there soberly, patiently. My partner Mark puts it well. It's 60 years after JFK. We still don't know everything. It's not even been 60 days since this event has occurred.
Okay. If I could add one, I want to add one point
Lynn,
to that too.
Before you do yours, what is not a wild theory is that Alison Wine Promo, my wine club, is amazing wine. And you know what? Sometimes it probably does feel like you're drunk when you watch the news, or maybe when you watch my channel. But in fact, you are sober. It's just the world around us is kind of going insane. If you would like to support my show, you're a wine drinker, you like stuff like I like, for instance, no dyes, no additives, hand harvested grapes, wines that are made like they made them hundreds of years ago. Some of these vineyards are over 200 years old. They're all, for the most part, high altitude in very remote regions. The guy who selects them, he literally risks his life for your glass of wine. You will always have a present for a holiday, a birthday party. You're going to be in the clubs. You're drinking exactly what everybody else is drinking. You're going to get the stories about them, and you're going to get 6 bottles of wine every 3 months. So you'll always have something on hand as a present. You don't have to be empty-handed. You're like, oh man, I totally forgot to get my boss something nice. And it comes with a story. It's pro-free speech, anti-censorship, and just amazing wine. And it supports the show. So go to AlisonWinePromo.com, sign up for the wine club, and let me know what you think. You can send me some mail, P.O. Box 3355, Denellen, Florida, 34432. I get all kinds of cool stuff. People send me their loose pocket change. Some send me a year's subscription worth of support. So I really appreciate all the donations, and just send me letter of encouragement. The producers do help me open them on the way home, so keep them kid-friendly. Don't send me anything edible. I will assume you're trying to kill me. We will try to send you some artwork, so make sure your address is on there, because we've been sending artwork. The producers work a very difficult job. They have getting all the crayons out, the paints, everything, and then some of it ends up on our wall, but that's okay, because we'll be remembering you forever as we stare at our wall, knowing that that art was produced for you, a generous supporter of the Alison Morrow Show. Eric, please, again, tell people where they can find this and when you think it's going to be ready.
Just look up my name. Hopefully, probably won't be ready till early next week. I mean, there's so much footage, and I'm trying to figure out how to put it all together in a cohesive story, because there's the story of our footage, but there's a story of what went down and how we got all the footage and the interviews. And there's a whole drama that happened that I think Lynn can confirm that people might find compelling too.
Okay. I really appreciate both of you guys coming on to talk about this. Thanks everybody who supports the show. Go check out the video that Eric's going to produce. Subscribe to his channel so you're ready for it when it comes out. And thanks for your hard work going to check it out for the rest of us who could not make the trip ourselves. See everybody next time.